Well, welcome to the 8th District. Right here on the west side, this is in my district, and this is what you call the Aspire Center for Workforce Innovation. This is a new development. It used to be an old elementary school, and it was converted to this center that we all enjoy now in the neighborhood. It just opened on June 19th. So it's beautiful, yes. So welcome to the community, and I'm happy to have the Illinois Healthy Alternatives Association and the guests here today, so welcome. I want to welcome everyone today to what I think will be a very productive discussion on the future of hemp, the hemp industry in Illinois. The goal of this discussion today is to define the challenges facing the industry both nationally and at the state level and discuss legislative solutions to ensure that children and minors are protected while also enabling adult consumers to access alternative health solutions that they need. As many of you know, I am very involved in the negotiations in Springfield. It is my hope we can advance the conversation today. The event today is the first of several events I intend to have across the state with the industry. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker, and that is Craig Katz. Is that right? And Craig serves as a board member of the Illinois Healthy Alternatives Association as well as the Missouri Hemp Trade Association. He also serves as the Government Relations and Compliance Manager at the CBD Kratom after a 40-plus year career as a trial attorney, political strategist, entrepreneur, and government relations consultant. Craig will be providing some background information on the hemp industry, the 2018 Farm Bill, and some of the issues facing the hemp industries today. So with that, I'd like to pass the mic to Craig, and after Craig, we'll have J.D. McCormick that's joining us on Zoom.
Thank you, Representative Ford. I appreciate the invitation to speak here today. Again, I am on the board of the Illinois American Healthy Alternatives Association. We are a association of stakeholders in the hemp industry in Illinois. We have members that are farmers, distributors, manufacturers, retailers. We cover the entire spectrum. Here in Illinois, we have a unique situation because Illinois does have a regulated cannabis/marijuana industry. It is regulated by the state of Illinois under the CRTA, which is the Cannabis Regulation Tax Authority. And marijuana and hemp are both parts of the cannabis plant. So it gets a little confusing sometimes for most people to differentiate between those two areas of the same plant. They both derive from the cannabis sativa L plant, and the difference is primarily in the potency of the products. The marijuana products are more potent than the hemp products, and the other difference is that the marijuana products are federally illegal. They are a Schedule I narcotic, and so the state of Illinois had to pass a specific regulation to allow for both the medical sales and the recreational sales of those products. Hemp, on the other hand, is a federally legal product as long as it meets the federally legal standard of 0.3% by dry weight of THC. So consequently, the hemp industry in Illinois and for the most part across the United States is a legal industry. Now we face, and when I say we, I refer to the hemp industry because that's where I'm a part of. We face regulation issues across the United States, primarily because there is conflict from place to place regarding the interpretation of the 2018 Farm Bill. The 2018 Farm Bill regulated hemp and took it out of the Controlled Substances Act. It descheduled it from Schedule 1, which it was in previously, along with marijuana. And there have been many places where it has been referred to as a loophole that hemp is legal. Now, that's not really true. It's just an argument that's being used by people in the marijuana industry primarily to try to control the hemp industry on a business level. And that's what this mostly comes down to in terms of the differentiation nationwide between hemp and marijuana products is an attempt by one industry to take more control over the other industry. So there are several regulations and proposed regulations that are going on across both the United States and individually in states and local municipalities that are trying to regulate hemp products. And as an association, the ILHAA is trying to work with the legislature, especially through Representative Ford, to try to come up with reasonable regulation so that the hemp industry has rules, that children are protected, that there are labeling requirements and packaging requirements so that there are safety issues that are addressed across the state of Illinois. The age gating issue is one of the primary issues, and that is to keep these products available only to people who are 21 years or older, with a possible exception of military veterans between the ages of 18 and 21. Our philosophy on that is if you're old enough to fight for the country, then you should be old enough to make a decision as to what products you can use. So those are some of the main issues that we're dealing with. The 2018 Farm Bill has not been altered since it was passed. The federal government, requires that the Farm Bill be renewed every 5 years. We are 2025 right now, and it still hasn't been renewed from 2018. Most of that is because of political infighting. There will be an attempt again in 2025 to pass a new Farm Bill. The prospects for that happening are questionable. And our position, at least on a national level, is to try to make sure that if the Farm Bill does get passed, that any hemp regulations are favorable to the industry in terms of allowing the industry to continue to exist on a legal basis. So in terms of the 2018 Farm Bill, that's pretty much where we stand. The other thing that we deal with on a fairly regular basis now is local municipalities or counties that take their own actions because they're not getting a lot of direction from either the state or federal government on what to do. And so we do that on an individual basis. For instance, in the city of Chicago right now, we are working with various aldermen to enact a city ordinance that will regulate hemp along the same lines as we discussed earlier, which is the age gating, the testing, and the packaging and labeling of products. We have an alderman in Chicago who's planning on presenting an ordinance next week. And it's an ordinance that will regulate the industry in the city, but also another issue that many municipalities and even states find attractive is the fact that there is a taxation aspect to any ordinance or regulation that gets passed. And in this time where we are always searching for new revenue sources and revenue streams to help government fund many programs, it's an opportunity for the government to regulate the industry as well as to derive revenue from the industry and make it more palatable for everyone across the board. So that's pretty much where we're at in terms of both federal legislation, the landscape along in the state and in the local municipalities. And I appreciate Representative Ford, you're allowing me to explain all that.
Thank you, Craig. We can't let you off the hook without me asking one question before we go to J.D. McCormick. And the question is, why is it so difficult to at least get, I heard you speak about we need to protect the minors. Why is it so difficult for us to at least pass a law to at least regulate the age?
The answer to that question is I honestly can't tell you why I can't get, or we can't get, legislators, whether it's state legislators, federal legislators, local elected officials, on the same page, because it seems to me that it's an issue that no one should object to. Everyone should want to protect children. And that's one of our primary goals, is to protect children. The problem is, I think, to some extent, it's become a political football, and you get different sides of the aisle that want to make a statement in one way, shape, or form, and their approach to making that statement varies according to what their philosophies are politically. So it seems to me that it's one of those things where if you could get everyone to sit down at the same table and have a reasoned discussion about what the actual goals are and what we're really trying to accomplish, I think everybody could get together. I think the problem is getting everybody in the same place at the same time.
Well, thank you, Craig, because it's important that we do this during the off season and get together so that when we go back to Springfield, we can have some type of agreement. So J.D. McCormick is virtual, and J.D. McCormick is the chairman of the American Healthy Alternative Association. So if anyone here, AHAA, just think that it's probably American Healthy Alternative Association, an organization advocating for healthier alternatives to opiates, alcohol, prescription drugs. With the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill, the AHAA has focused on protecting and supporting the hemp market in the post-prohibition landscape. McCormick is involved with the Missouri Hemp Trade Association, the MHTA, and the Illinois Healthy Alternative Association. In his career, McCormick has opened 4 retail stores, started up a hemp brand, and now leads the AHAA. JD will provide a national perspective on what is happening in the hemp industry in Washington, D.C., and in other states. JD, are you with us?
Can you hear me now? First of all, allowing me to participate in this discussion today. To understand what the 2018 Farm Bill did, we have to look at current market dynamics. The small businesses in the hemp space did not exist prior to 2018. And so you've got an industry that is stumbling and hitting speed bumps and learning from their mistakes in real time and over the course of the last 7 years. I think it's the American entrepreneur that, wakes up and wants to do better for their family and wants to do better for their community, that is doing everything they can to learn from their past mistakes. That has been reflected in 2 continuing resolutions that have extended the Farm Bill, in and of itself being an action for Congress to say, we can't look at this right now. Everything is okay at the moment. We want to study this further and continue to allow the hemp industry to exist. So the discussion in Washington, D.C. gets a little bit more complicated when you add in marijuana. If you're considering marijuana rescheduling to Schedule 3 and hemp that is completely descheduled, the juxtaposition of those 2 industries and those 2 legal frameworks is difficult to comport. It's difficult to put together. So DC, through the agriculture subcommittees, are considering some language as we speak that would aim to redefine hemp. We're actively opposing that language. But while they're doing that and while they're looking at that language, they're also looking at rescheduling marijuana to Schedule 3. Schedule 3 is its own complex issue in understanding how pharmacies and pharmacists would participate in the marijuana industry and be able to prescribe these products and dole them out at your local pharmacies. It gets a bit complicated. And so understanding that the hemp industry across the United States is a collection of tens of thousands of small businesses that had a very low barrier to entry. These are salt-of-the-earth small business folks that may have started their retail stores or small hemp farms with $25,000 or $50,000. These are people trying to do everything they can to follow the laws and follow these regulations. And so we've seen attempts to regulate in states all over the country: red states, blue states, purple states, Colorado, Illinois, New Jersey, New York. And each approach is slightly different. But I think the underlying truth or the underlying issue is to keep these products out of the hands of kids, make sure that they're properly tested, and make sure that all of the branding and the marketing for these products is adult-oriented and not targeting children with things like look-alike products that look like Skittles or Doritos, etc. So I touched on the continuing resolution in D.C., but as you can understand, the congressional action, and that fight that happened for that continuing resolution was very, very complex. Folks on both sides of the aisle, in both the House and the Senate, considered this language at length at the end of last year, and it really came down to what would be a devastating multi-billion-dollar economic impact should they just outright ban all hemp products. And so you've got some criminality concerns, of course, with historically marijuana, but then again with hemp. And because hemp is proliferated across the country and participates in interstate commerce, it's very difficult to think about the millions of consumers of hemp products that, let's say a state makes it illegal, if they get caught with it, they could end up in jail or prison or whatever. And so we don't want to see, criminality. We want to see regulation. And we've been preaching that in Congress for the last several years and helping members of Congress and the Senate and even folks in the White House understand kind of what this looks like. And again, the juxtaposition between marijuana and hemp, their similarities and their differences in their legal frameworks. So interesting point that I wanted to point out. Post-COVID, alcohol consumption in the United States is decreasing year over year. Alcohol distributors and manufacturers are looking for their next revenue stream, and they have identified hemp as a likely pathway for their interests and for their financial gain. The alcohol industry is looking at specifically hemp beverages, and in looking at hemp beverages, it seems to me that the alcohol folks and many of the folks on that side want to give the consumers something that is appropriate for adults, marketed to adults, is well tested and above board. But in doing so, it's been a tough, kind of relationship and negotiation process with them and kind of the rest of the small businesses in the space. And so we've come alongside them in recent months and helped them understand kind of the intricacies of both the political and the legal landscape. And so now we sit in the middle of an intersection of alcohol, marijuana corporations, and tens of thousands of small hemp businesses that are all vying for their piece of the hemp pie. So again, I just want to close with saying it's important to understand that this industry is a collection of tens of thousands of small businesses that are trying their best to do everything right, and clear guidance, in our opinion, is the best path forward. Things like marketing restrictions, age restrictions, testing standards are paramount to this industry's success and, for its success in your local communities. So I'll turn it over and back to you, but thank you again for the invitation, and thank you so much for allowing me to participate.
Thank you, JD. You got a cool name, too. JD. Let me ask you, JD, Does the federal government see them both the same, or do they see them different?
I think the question was, I'm sorry, I have a little bit of audio issue. I think the question was, what are the similarities between hemp and cannabis products?
Do you think that the federal government see them the same? When, you want to regulate them the same? Are they seeing hemp like they see cannabis, or is there any favorable between the two?
So I think the discussion around federal regulation, and this has been largely agreed to by folks that we've spoken to, the FDA, USDA, setting a kind of floor for testing standards, marketing standards, age restrictions, setting that floor at the federal level is certainly appropriate. For instance, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of testing facilities all over the United States that all operate with slightly different, standard operating procedures for their testing protocols. So one testing lab may say it's, 0.25%. One might say it's 0.24%. And that slight variation is a major problem when you look at things like criminality and overall, lookout. So setting a standard, working with, international standards agencies like the ASTM to set the floor and set testing regulations, age restrictions at the federal level is probably the best path forward. I mean, considering that each state has its own right to regulate and should regulate these products in a, appropriate manner, we have to set the floor somewhere. And so when you're talking about marijuana versus hemp at the federal level, something like a uniform, universal testing standard, a uniform, universal age restriction, those things are not only widely agreed to, but really are common sense. I think beyond that, getting into which type of child food packaging standard do you use, whether you use 16 CFR or you use ASTM, some of that kind of nuance and some of those areas of concern in the regulatory frameworks, I think a lot of that could be handled by the states. And I think in the conversations in DC, you get kind of two camps. One camp is pro-regulation, one camp is prohibition. And those two camps have to kind of come to terms with the fact that by and large, the American population wants some form of legal cannabis, some form of legal hemp, and they don't want people to be criminalized for possessing those products. So I think it's just coming to a base floor for regulation that is absolutely agreed to by all parties. And beyond that, where we start to see economic advantages for larger entities, larger companies, and thinking about small business impact, where I think things get a little bit more complicated. But I think everyone would agree to kind of the core 3 or 4 basic principles.
Thank you. We're going to stay in the virtual world and go to Rod Kike. Rod, are you ready?
Yes, okay.
All right.
I think you've got probably a speaker there.
All right.
That's a little bit bigger. Yes, thank you. I'm here.
Let me introduce you. Let me introduce you, Rod. Let me introduce you for a moment.
Industry throughout the country, and I have since the 2014 Farm Bill was enacted, and that was the first time that any form of cannabis was legalized in almost 100 years. That gave birth to the CBD industry, and which ultimately formed the 2018 Farm Bill, which is JD said was sort of the I do all day, every day for a decade or more now. And so I want to talk about Illinois and the Illinois Healthy Alternatives Act bill and some frameworks that I think are important. So today, I'm just going to spend about 10 or 12 minutes with you, and I appreciate your time, talking about 5 issues. First of all, I want to just discuss a sort of a top-line summary of what the Illinois Healthy Alternatives Association bill is, and in particular what it proposes. I want to talk about what's working in other states, and we deal with all 50 states, all day, every day, and so kind of what we see that's working, what's not working. I want to revisit some things that JD said, in particular about why regulation is necessary from a legal standpoint. The fourth thing I'm going to talk about is how to implement testing and compliance effectively. That's a huge discussion. I'm literally just going to touch on it for a minute or two. And then finally, why what I'm going to call the three pillars approach is the best path forward for a regulatory structure. So I'm going to dive in, don't want to take up too much time. Let's talk about the Illinois Healthy Alternatives Association bill. It does a few really important things. First of all, it provides clear definitions for important concepts. You know, for instance, just hemp-derived cannabinoids. What we see in the industry is a lot of sort of fuzziness about, you know, a bill here will say this and a bill here will say that. We think they might mean the same thing, but maybe they don't. And in this state, it's interpreted this way. This bill really clarifies those things. It also sets out both a clear path for the industry to follow, while also a clear guardrails set of systems to protect consumers. It establishes a hemp-derived cannabinoid commission to directly oversee and to regulate this particular industry. It's not sort of lumped in with other industries. It has its own commission. The bill will implement licensing and labeling requirements to monitor the industry and to keep out the bad actors. These requirements are going to make it easier for regulators and for law enforcement to determine who's acting compliantly and what products are compliant. Right now, a lot of times law enforcement regulators are sort of going by the seat of their pants, just kind of flying through. What is this? You know, should we take this? Should we not? What is this label supposed to have? You know, this is going to make that a lot easier. It's going to mandate age restrictions at 21 plus and require secure product packaging. It's going to require certificates of analysis, which are laboratory reports for both potency, in other words, you know, from an intoxication standpoint or cannabinoid content standpoint, what does it have in it, but also quality control to make sure that there are not adulterants and contaminants in the products that are being sold. And finally, it's going to restrict advertising and ban products that are designed to appeal to children. This is an issue that we have seen, and JD can confirm this, as being vitally important to lawmakers across the country. You know, even lawmakers that are very much in favor of these products, absolutely everyone agrees, in the industry as well, that they shouldn't be marketed and sold to children. So let's move on to my second sort of topic of discussion, and that is what's worked in other states. And as a general, I'm going to give a few examples, but generally speaking, states that regulate rather than prohibit or outright restrict have the most success, because what they're doing is preserving public safety while also protecting local businesses. And historically, both, you know, going all the way back, you know, 100 years to the alcohol prohibition, but all the way up to the present day, dealing with states that themselves have prohibited hemp products, we know, it's just plain as day, that prohibition and restriction simply expand the black market and eliminate the good actors. You know, I think that's sort of a, you know, I know a lot of lawmakers think they're acting in good faith, usually on maybe not good information, by banning these products because they don't want to get them into the hands of children or whatever. But of course, we all know that all that means is that now you've got, you know, these products are wanted and desired, and when they're in the black market, you have no way of regulating them at all. Whereas regulating them, you have control over the flow of them and how they are marketed. Let's talk about a few examples real briefly. Minnesota really has a comprehensive set of laws that was enacted a couple of years ago. It was an early adopter of licensing and testing. And in particular, Minnesota was a pioneer in the hemp-derived THC beverage category, which is, JD mentioned that, which those products are regulated and taxed. Tennessee focused its recent legislation on labeling and packaging requirements while avoiding outright prohibition. I will say that most in the industry would probably agree with me that Tennessee's law that was recently enacted goes too far in banning certain products, such as smokable flower, which is a very important product category. But it does also contain some important provisions regarding sort of licensing and regulations and taxation. Texas is a unique situation. It's probably the biggest hemp market. You know, it's one of the biggest states in the country. It maintains to this day open markets with compliance frameworks that support both the farming and the retail sectors of the industry. Notably, the Texas legislature recently, and by recently I mean literally within the past month or so, enacted a comprehensive bill that would have banned almost every product and participant in the hemp market. It was massive. The governor vetoed it due to the fact that it would decimate the state's established hemp industry. It would push all the products into the black market, as I was just discussing, and it would invite lawsuits. And so the governor vetoed it and has called a special session in an effort to get the legislature to enact a more robust regulatory system, such as the one that we're discussing today in Illinois, rather than a bill that bans the hemp product that consumers want and puts good actors out of business. So the Texas legislature is going to go back into session here in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks to hash that out. Notably in Florida, a similar thing happened last year when the Florida legislature enacted a hemp ban bill that the governor vetoed. And as with Texas, Florida currently has a hemp licensing and registration structure that also includes robust provisions that prohibit marketing to children. And so while, we would sit here and say that no state, has it perfect, we do have some examples of states that do have comprehensive policies, and we have examples of states that maybe some get parts of it right and parts of it wrong, but I think we have a real opportunity in Illinois to get it right. So let's talk about why it's important to get it right from a legal standpoint. As you've heard several times today, federal law in the form of the 2018 Farm Bill legalized hemp, but importantly, it left a regulatory void. So other than sending cease and desist letters to companies that market their hemp products to treat diseases and medical issues, the FDA has completely failed to establish any regulations or guidance for consumer hemp products. So what we have at the federal level is the USDA regulates the production of hemp, which is really just the growing of hemp, farmers, right? And the USDA even devolves that authority to states when they propose plans that the USDA approves. And that's it. Once that plant is harvested from the federal level, it's essentially off the table from a regulatory standpoint, except in extreme cases where companies are marketing products, hemp products to cure Alzheimer's or whatever, the FDA will step in. But that's left this vacuum for states to step into because states have to regulate how people access these products, how they manufacturing them, and to protect their citizens and the legitimate hemp industry while avoiding getting bogged down in legal challenges based on bad regulations. And so I'll just say that the bottom line from a legal standpoint is that clear enforceable rules will help to distinguish legitimate actors from the bad actors. A few more quick things, and then I'll cede the floor here. How do we think about this? And when I say that the Illinois hemp bill that's proposed by the Healthy Alternatives Association is a good bill, what do we mean by that? And it has occurred to me, I think about these things all the time. I'm constantly having clients and government agencies reach out to me and talk about it. And it occurred to me that we need to establish a structure, a framework, a lens to view this through. And the lens that I created is called the 3 pillars approach. And the 3 pillars refer to 3 regulatory zones, if you will. Pillar 1, and probably the most important, is age gating or age restriction. So we believe that any good bill will restrict access to adults 21 and older across all product categories. States may determine that under certain circumstances, doctors note parental consent, that people under the age of 21 might be able to take certain products for medical issues or whatnot. But the floor is that generally speaking, 21 and up, right? The second pillar is quality control, such as requiring CGMP compliance and lab testing for both contaminants and for potency, as I discussed earlier. And then also objective standards to protect consumers and just raise the credibility of the industry. Quality control is something I think with most products we take for granted. If I go to the grocery store and get a thing of vitamin C or a thing of milk off the shelf, absent some sort of failure in the system, I don't think about the fact that these things are clean. I assume that there are not contaminants in these products. And we want to ensure that that's the case with hemp products so that people can look at a label and know that what the label says is exactly what's in the product. Which brings us to the third pillar, and that is labeling and marketing. We want to assure that accurate ingredients and potency disclosures are on the label. We want to require warning labels for intoxication potential and drug testing risks. And again, we want to ban marketing that's aimed at minors or labels that mimic candy and soft drinks and things like that. So again, the three pillars are, age gating, quality control, and comprehensive and consistent labeling and marketing. And this is a rational approach to guide hemp regulation so that adults, not kids, but adults can make educated choices about the hemp products that they want to use, knowing that they're safe. An adult can say, well, I'm not going to use these products, or I am going to use these products, but I want to make it a choice. Am I going to use, a small dose, high dose? Do I want multiple cannabinoids? Do I want one? All sorts of things that adults have a right to do. A couple more quick things. Testing and implementation. So the Illinois bill takes a deep dive into clear testing and requirements for certificate of analysis. In other words, that lab document and what it should say. Local labs and partnerships with universities can also aid in this implementation. And also, we do have an infrastructure in place with ISO and DEA certified labs that do exist. And so, the hemp companies can take advantage of that existing infrastructure. And just to wrap up, the benefits of regulating, certainly as opposed to prohibition, but regulating using the Illinois Healthy Alternatives Association model, which does incorporate the three pillars that I discussed, are first that it enhances the public trust, safety through transparency, protects the entire Illinois hemp industry, and this is a full ecosystem, farmers, processors, manufacturers, and retailers. This will enable a solid base to attract investment and innovation in a regulatory environment that investors and entrepreneurs can count on, right? They can look at this and say, this is where we are, this is what we can do, without it being constantly in flux or gray or whatnot. And then finally, it aligns with the national best practices and the expectations under federal law. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions. Just note that I can't hear very well what's happening in the room, so I may need you to repeat the question. But again, thank you for your time here today. Thank you for considering this bill and considering, protecting the
Well, thank you very much. Let me just say that if you wonder how his presentation was structured, he's a lawyer, so that's why he talked that way. So let me tell you who Rod Kike is. He is a cannabis business law attorney. He created the Source Rule, which is widely credited as a primary legal foundation for the contemporary hemp market in cannabinoids and other cannabis materials. Rod represents the legal cannabis business throughout the world and is the editor-in-chief writer of Night on Cannabis Law blog. You can find them at www.KIGHTONCANNABIS.com. And he's the author of Cannabis Business Law, What You Need to Know, published by Asherton Books. Rod has served on the advisory boards for the American Journal of Cannabinoids Medicine, that's the AJEM, for which he wrote a legal column. He also served on the board of directors for the International Cannabis and Psychedelic Companies. Rod will and has joined us by Zoom, and we thank you for your particular legislative ideas brought to us by the Illinois Healthy Alternative Association. So thank you very much, Rod. And we're going to go to our next speaker in the house, which is Justin Ward. Justin, welcome. Justin is the co-founder of Stony Branch Farms, which is a sixth-generation family farm located in Illinois. Thank you for sticking with Illinois and paying those taxes and hiring people, specializing in cultivation of high-quality THCA and CBD flower. He also serves as the president of the board of Illinois Healthy Alternatives Association. And Justin is going to address the agriculture aspect of hemp industry and the opportunities hemp provides to the Illinois farmers. And I think you're joined here with a very special person.
Yes. Yes, I am joined by my wife and my brother, who are both my business partners in Stony Branch Farms, so thank you for being here. I just want to start off by saying good morning to everyone, and thank you, Representative Ford, for hosting this important conversation today. As Representative Ford said, my name is Justin Ward, and I'm a sixth-generation Illinois farmer and CEO of Stony Branch Farms. Stony Branch is a family-run farm in Rushville, Illinois, dedicated to preserving our family's farming legacy while navigating the challenges of modern agriculture. A few years ago, we saw the potential of hemp, not just as another crop, but as a way to diversify our income, bring innovation to Illinois agriculture, and support our local community. At Stony Branch Farms, we grow hemp for cannabinoid flower, focusing on high-quality, living soil-grown hemp, and we've been recognized nationally for the quality of our flower. We package and distribute products to retail stores across Illinois and throughout the U.S., helping build a responsible and transparent hemp supply chain that supports small businesses and local jobs. Today, our farm supports 9 full-time employees, each earning more than a minimum wage, reflecting our commitment to fair pay and stable jobs in our rural community while contributing to the local economy. For us, hemp isn't just about the products, it's about creating opportunities for family farms, showing what responsible cultivation looks like in this industry, and reinvesting in the communities where Illinois farmers live and work. Today, I'd like to talk about why hemp is critical for Illinois agriculture, why stability in the hemp industry matters for businesses and communities, and why it's essential we protect kids and prevent bad actors while supporting responsible businesses. Illinois is known for its rich soils and strong agricultural traditions, but farming today is hard. Markets are volatile, input costs are rising, and young people are leaving rural communities at record rates. Between 2017 and 2024, the U.S. lost around 160,000 farms, an 8% decline in just 7 years, putting immense economic and emotional pressure on farm families. Farming is one of the most stressful professions, with a suicide rate 3.5 times higher than the general population, driven by fears of losing the family farm, market instability, and shifting regulations. Hemp offers a path forward, giving farmers the chance to diversify income through fiber, grain, and cannabinoids while reducing input costs and opening new markets. At Stony Branch Farms, hemp allows us to add a high-value crop, create local jobs, and keep economic benefits in our community. Supporting hemp means supporting family farms, farmer mental health, and the resilience of rural Illinois. But to truly support farmers and local businesses, the hemp industry needs a stable, clear, and fair regulatory framework. As farmers, we plan months, sometimes years ahead, so shifting or unclear regulations make it incredibly difficult to plan and grow with confidence. Uncertainty limits growth, investment, and job creation. Stable regulations allow us to invest, hire, and contribute to local and state tax bases confidently. We must ensure any legislation that we pass here in Illinois in relation to hemp keeps hemp products out of the hands of minors, make sure that they are safe, accurately labeled, and responsibly sold. Bad actors who cut corners or market irresponsibly put consumers at risk. The solution is clear: enforceable rules that protect consumers and remove bad actors. We support age restrictions, ID verification, product testing by certified labs, and clear labeling, all the things which we talked about during Rod Kite's speech on the 3 pillars. I also want to take a moment to address the tension that sometimes exists between the hemp industry and the recreational and medical cannabis industry. We know that on the surface, we are selling many of the same types of products, but are currently operating under very different regulatory structures. It's understandable that this has created concerns and competitions in states across the country. But I believe there's more that unites us than divides us. We share the goals of providing safe, tested products to consumers, creating jobs in our communities, and ensuring cannabis in all its forms is handled responsibly. By working together, we can find solutions that protect consumers and children while allowing both industries to thrive and coexist here in Illinois. I'm grateful for leaders like Representative Ford who are working to bring these conversations to the table, and I believe that by keeping the dialogue open, we can find a path forward that works for everyone. In closing, hemp offers a meaningful opportunity for Illinois agriculture. It can help keep family farms alive, create local jobs, provide safe, high-quality products, and contribute to our state's economy. But realizing this opportunity takes all of us: farmers, business owners, consumers, community leaders, and our partners in the Illinois legislature, working together to support a clear and stable path forward. If we do this right, Illinois can continue to lead in agriculture while building a responsible, thriving hemp industry that benefits our communities for years to come. Thank you all for being here today and for your interest in the future of hemp.
Thank you for that, Justin. Let me just ask you a question about, we threw out THCA and CBD. Now, people talk about CBD all the time, and I've heard THCA. Could you just tell us what THCA is and what is CBD? We know we use it, the word, and you have anybody out in the community say, I use CBD. What is it?
So CBD is one of over 100 cannabinoids that can be found within the cannabis plant and on hemp or marijuana side. CBD stands for cannabidiol, which is a cannabinoid that is found to have a number of potential medicinal and therapeutic benefits, but not have the intoxicating effect that we're used to with delta-9 THC, which is the cannabinoid commonly we talk about when we're talking about the high associated with cannabis use. As we learn more about this plant, as it's kind of come into the legalization era in the last 10 years through hemp and marijuana both, we understand that there are a number of cannabinoids that can have intoxicating or non-intoxicating effects both. So, this is, we're learning more about these things all the time. To get into specifically THCA, THCA is another cannabinoid. It is the precursor to delta-9 THC, but in its state as THCA has no kind of high or effect until it's been heated and converted into delta-9, but has become a popular product category in the hemp space, and is one that we have frankly really been able to build a strong business around, and it's something that is critical to, I think, being able to grow the cannabinoid kind of agricultural hemp space here in the state. CBD offers a lot of opportunities for people who are looking for trying cannabis, want a natural alternative to pharmaceuticals, but they don't want a high associated with that. I think a lot of the problem comes with there's a lot of benefit to some of the products that also have a high, and some levels of THC also, it's not just a recreational product. They provide immense potential medical and therapeutic benefits, and I think it's important in the hemp space we don't get overly focused on it just being CBD, that there's a whole range of cannabinoids that provide a number of benefits, and keeping all those open and just regulating them I think is the best path forward.
Thank you very much for that explanation. And Justin, do you know the next speaker? James Weddingen.
I do, Jim. He recently joined our board at ILHAA, and he's a great retail shop in Springfield.
Okay, so James, are you ready? I'm going to introduce the fifth speaker. After 15 years in the pharmaceutical industry, James Weddingen opened CBD Botanical in Springfield in 2019. Jim is the newest member of the board for the Illinois Healthy Alternatives Association, and he will be joining us via Zoom. He will address some of the challenges small business owners like him face in Illinois. Jim, you're up.
Thanks for joining us today. I've spent about 15 years in the pharmaceutical industry prior to this, so that's what we brought to this side of the industry, was more of a consultative approach to this. I'll be very blunt. We spent about 2 years reading on cannabinoids before and really getting ourselves educated on this before we opened the business. And through that process, we
which makes it a challenge because the average wage at my stores is, we just finished up our June numbers. Average wage through the first 6 months of the year are $27.08 per hour that I'm paying somebody who doesn't need a college degree, who just has to be able to listen to their clients. They've got to be able to repeat, and they've got to be able to educate and be patient. When I look at that, that's 180% of the living wage that we talk about so much over the last few years as well. So we're able to not only create a skill for our employees to be able to present well and to be able to educate and know that they're doing something good for the community. We're able to do this in our community where now we have the medical professionals referring to us. And that's a sense of pride for me, coming from the pharmaceutical side of things, where we were very often talking to people that were smarter than us or had more letters after their name. We've created CBD botanicals as a beacon or as a center for that, so much so that even the dispensary people refer people to us now because they know that they're going to be educated in the proper way. That's our story. That's what we would like to see presented Illinois-wide. And we hope that, our doors are always open. We would hope that people come by and visit and see us at any time because sorry, let me grab something here. We're so confident that we even carry a lab book of every one of our lab reports at any time for any product in the store. Not only can you go to a QR code and find out the actual lab report, but we have them printed on hand if you want to read them at that moment too. Our success has been transparency, and that's what we're hoping that we can get out of this future legislation as well. So I appreciate you guys letting me step in and speak to it from a boots on the street or a frontline perspective with the clients who come in and purchase these products.
Thank you very much. Let me just pass the mic to Craig. Did you want to say something?
Well, I just want to apprise everyone of the fact that Representative Ford is actually the one who's going to be carrying our proposed legislation into the Illinois legislature coming up. And we are very much appreciative of the fact that he is doing that. We've had many conversations over the last several months. He has been very welcoming of our input as to what we think needs to be in the legislation. And again, he himself and his staff have been very deeply committed to this, as he has been for really quite some time, over several years. And we're very proud of the fact that he has agreed to carry our bill, and we're looking forward to working together to get it passed. Thank you.
Thank you. And what about you, Justin?
Yeah, I would just like to take a moment to thank Representative Ford again. That without your help and support, that hemp was in a scary place here in Illinois. So having someone like yourself to step forward and be an advocate for us in the legislature is key for keeping all of our businesses alive and growing this industry into what we think it could be here in Illinois. So I just appreciate all the speakers who took time out of their day to be here, and to Rep Ford for hosting, and the Aspire Center for having us. It's a beautiful location to get to do something like this. So thank you again, everyone. I look forward to doing some more of these over the rest of the summer.
Thank you. And thank you, Illinois Healthy Alternatives, for keeping this discussion going over the summer, because normally legislators have said, don't bring us any bills without working with us over the summer. So hopefully these conversations that we have when we go from community to community, that you continue to have the conversations with members of the General Assembly to keep them abreast on the changes that are happening. That way, when we present the bill on the floor, no one is surprised. I think members want to do something with the hemp industry, but they also want to make sure that they do it right. So this is how you get it right, by having discussions and working toward getting it right. So with that said, thank you for coming to the west side of Chicago, and we look forward to the next time when we discuss hemp regulations.